Talking About My Generation, the podcast with Lee Scriven and Del Bromham.
Hello and welcome to a bonus edition of Talking About My Generation. And you can probably tell I've got a little bit of excitement. Well, not a little bit of excitement in my voice, a lot of excitement, because I'm absolutely pleased and privileged to introduce you to Jonathan Maitland, the writer behind Wilko Johnson's musical Love, Death and Rock and Roll. Welcome to the show, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
right.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm going to get onto the show in a bit, and for listeners, don't worry. But as regular listeners know, we like to just try and find out a little bit about you, Jonathan. I mean, we can all go on Wikipedia, etc., etc. But more about your musical culture side. We always ask these questions to guests who come on, and they're pretty stock. I'm sure you would have heard them before. What was the first record you ever bought, Jonathan?
Well, that's an interesting one. I think it might have been I'm a Believer by the Monkees, but I'm slightly worried it might also have been Ernie, the Fastest Milkman in the West by Benny Hill.
Yeah, there's a man of his times, Benny Hill.
And God, it comes up to his chest.
Yeah, well, they used to have them every to come out a little while, didn't they? First gig you saw, can be local or the first national gig, whatever gig. What was the first sort of?
No. This is going to shock you. The Hollies at the Bournemouth Winter Gardens in 1972.
Wow.
My brother was a big fan of the Hollies, and I really liked their kind of their poppy stuff. And then they branched out a bit and started doing this kind of, in the early 70s, they had a #1 hit called Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress, which was kind of quite funky and rocky.
Yeah, I was just trying to think. Trying to think of the title. Yeah, I was just trying to think of that one. Of course, The Air I Can Breathe. Do you know what? They're one of the most underrated bands. I think they just get looked over. Brilliant. I mean, Del, bring me in here. You was around in that time. They wrote some great songs.
I'm slightly older than you.
Yes, yeah.
And I can remember in the 60s going to school, it was like the Hollies, the Beatles, the Stones.
Yeah.
They're all, and you know, arguably, Hollies had two writers in the band. Mm-hmm. If there hadn't been a Lennon McCartney, maybe.
Yeah,
history
I mean,
really
Graham
different.
Nash's book is very interesting, where he just felt because of the times were changing so quickly, the Hollies were safe in their environment and they liked their environment.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go down that road.
Oh wow!
Nash's book is very interesting, where he just felt because of the times were changing so quickly, the Hollies were safe in their environment and they liked their environment.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go down that road.
No.
But they were a great band, and I share that actually. I saw the Hollies at the old Caesar's Palace. There used to be this place called Caesar's Palace in Luton, which was anything but. But they were great. They were a really good band. And
How was the chicken in the basket? Was that all right?
Yeah, it was actually.
Yeah,
That's what
good
it
boy.
was. It was. I normally ask a musician, but I'll ask the same for you. Most inspirational band, or in your case, perhaps a journalist who sort of spurred you on to do what you've done with your life, Jonathan?
Well, I suppose that's two different questions. The band that I've always very much been utterly infatuated with Squeeze.
Oh, right, yeah.
I just thought their kind of combination of incredible hooky songs, but just incredibly witty, observant, intelligent lyrics are just, they, you know, right from the word go, when I heard Up the Junction in the 1977, you know, it kind of really spoke to me. And then they came out with something so different, like Tempted, which is kind of, you know, one of the best songs ever written.
Yeah, absolutely.
So emotional, you know.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased, actually, because, you know, Chris Difford, I know we're going to be talking about my show about Wilko Johnson later on, but we're having some guest stars after each show. And I'm very pleased that Chris Difford's going to be one of them, because, of course, he was the... He was the lyricist and still is with Squeeze and the guitarist, the rhythm guitarist, and journalists. No journalists particularly inspired. I mean, I've kind of left the journalism
Behind.
journaling or journalism behind, because writing plays is more fun. I mean, it pays a lot less, but it's you know, it pays 20 times less, but it's 20 times more fun.
I get that. Right, and the reason I ask you that question, because if you listen to the first episode of what we've done on this, the first band that made me feel that I can do this and really engaged with me and excited me enough to go and form a band and play the same songs as they were playing was Dr. Feelgood in 1974 at the Roundhouse. Now, I'd seen The Who. The Who were my first gig, but I explained this to Dale and the listeners before. But when I saw The Who, they were like rock gods, and you never felt you could be a rock god. It was just like that was you were chosen by other gods to be a rock god. But when I saw the Feelgoods, and I was with a great friend of mine, Geordie Walker, who later went on and formed Killing Joke, we never slept, I think, that night because the music was fantastic and they looked fantastic. But the most important thing was that they inspired me. And I don't think I was alone. I've seen Suggs, and I think you would know, and you might cite some people that Feelgoods, they lit the match or lit the fuse, whatever you want to say, on what followed, which is why I'm so excited about your show and what have you. So the play, Love and Death and Rock and Roll, what compelled you to write it, Jonathan?
Well, the story of Wilco was so extraordinary. I mean, I was a massive fan, like you anyway. When I was younger, I just couldn't believe what Wilco looked like and sounded like. And the music was kind of quite primal, really, but so exciting and so earthy. And it's funny, sometimes when you're younger, you don't realize why music is so incredibly good. And it only occurs to you 50 years later when you listen to it, oh my God, it's every bit as good now as it was then. And I was always thinking of writing a play about a rock star who pretended to die to help his career, because I found the concept quite amusing. Because, of course, for a rock star, the best thing you can do is to die young, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, yeah, I mean, all those kids who, those poor kids who died when they were 27, like Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison. And then Wilco kind of went and did it. Okay, he was 65, but, as your listeners may or may not remember, in 2012, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He was a goner. Everyone thought he was going to die in months. He thought he was going to die in months.
Yeah.
He goes to number one. It completely revitalizes his career. He goes on a sellout national tour with Roger Daltrey. The Guardian call him our greatest living Englishman. He becomes a national hero. He's all over the papers. Even the New York Times covers the story. He's massive news all over the world. It's fantastic for his career. And then he doesn't die. I mean, you couldn't make it up. So it's a
it's a remarkable story, is it? No one, I mean, it's like going to your own funeral, isn't it? We all dream of going to our own funeral, but Wilco did it.
That's where I've gone wrong. I don't feel very well at this point. It could be a comeback.
But for me, it couldn't have happened to a better guy, because in Oil City Confidential and then his later film, he just comes over as he's just a great character. I think that's a good description, really. He was just a great guitar. And I was talking to Del, who is a guitar hero. One of the last great guitar heroes of British rock and roll. Yeah, we've had Johnny Marr and people, John Squires, but of that period, he was a guitar hero, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Del knows more about guitar technique and guitar heroes than I do, but I know that Wilco's playing style was unique. He picked and strummed at the same time. Certainly the sound he got, it sounded like two guitars at once. It was this very kind of extraordinary choppy sound. I mean, anyone listening to this will immediately want to go and check him out to refresh their memories of him. I mean, I would recommend Down by the Jetty, just an incredible album. But you listen to She Does It Right off that album, and you just can't believe it. It's like plugging yourself into the mains. He was, I would say, he was certainly in the top 10 of all-time guitar heroes. He's on most people's lists. I mean, it was interesting when Elton John got a Q Lifetime Achievement Award back in 2012-13, one of those awards they gave out to rock and roll gods. Elton won it that year, and Wilco was giving out the prizes. And Wilco said, listen, this award, I'm not accepting this award because I grew up watching you. You were incredible. Your band was amazing. And he gave the award straight over to Wilco. I think that for men of a certain age, you know, the thing is with Wilco and the band, and particularly the interplay between him and Lee Brillo, the lead singer, once seen, never forgotten. It's an incredible partnership. I mean, more so than any, I'm struggling to think of a, you know, even Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend, Jagger and Richards. I can't really think of.
It was of that ilk, wasn't it? Yeah, but at a different level. Yeah, Stuart, Ronnie Wood in their prime in the Faces,
Yeah,
and
well,
even
Ronnie,
Bowie and Mick Ronson. But it was more intense with Lee Brillo, and they seemed to just have unnatural, brilliant timing when to sort of rub shoulders or look each other, and it wasn't choreographed, was it? It was natural. It was, and of course, you know, the Big Figure and Sparks on bass. It was a great band. Great band.
No, I think it's interesting with. You talk about Bowie and Ronson and Ronnie and Rod, and they're great. And I love watching the Faces on Top of the Pops with Rod kicking footballs into the crowd. But it was all matey. It was matey. The interesting thing, the dynamic between Lee and Wilco was absolutely unique because it was so menacing. There was nothing like it. I think that's the key thing. It's this unique chemistry of Lee, who looks like, you know, he's not sure if he's going to sing for you or shoot you in the head or rob your bank. And Wilco is his consigliere. You know, he's the kind of Sancho Panza, if you like, but a dodgy one to Lee's Don Quixote. You know, Wilco is looking out for him. You touch my boss, and I'll kill you. All right. And then Sparko and Figure, Sparko and Figure I always find quite funny because they're like, you know, the grunts driving the Getaway band in their crap suits. But they're laying down the beat, and they're just fantastic. And so I don't think there's ever been a front man, you know, singer and a guitarist like it. And the thing is, they it's such a shame they're only together for a year or two, but maybe that's what added to it, you know, that kind of intensity, you know.
It did, yeah. And so Lee Brillo was I understand, for a friend of mine, was a really great guy. And so listeners may not know, I'm pretty sure, I'll put my hand on the table here, that it was down to Lee Brillo that Stiff Records got created, because I believe he funded the first couple of singles and first albums. Very influential guy and an all-round guy. But you're right. What people, I think, Jonathan, fail to, of a certain age, perhaps my producer's looking at us thinking, why are these guys going on about this band? I don't really know it that well. But what you got to understand is, and you would know, and Del would know, is that rock music at that time was very grandeur, wasn't it? I mean, it was, you know, 3-hour sets and Stairway to Heavens, Dark Side of the Moons, Tales of the Topographic Oceans. I mean, we were all lapping it up. And then it's just suddenly this band appear in basically in black and white in a way, and just restore the order. And so that album, Down by the Tree, released in mono, which I know was a really big thing, but it sounds fantastic.
John, can I ask you a question? From a guitar geek's point of view, I don't know if you mentioned it. I only ever met Wilco once, although we played on the same bill at various festivals. And I only met him once, and we had a chat, and it wasn't about guitars, funnily enough. It was about something else. But did he ever mention? Did you ever find out if he had a big influence on his guitar playing? Because it is very unusual.
Yeah, he was a big fan of Mick Green of the Pirates. And in the play, Wilco, Love and Death and Rock and Roll, which is opening, well, it's opening now in the West End at Leicester Square Theatre. There's a scene in the play where he says to his then girlfriend's parents, who are quizzing him about what he does, he says in his rather amusing Essex Cockney drawl, which I will attempt to now, but I'm not a very good actor. Yeah, I'm into Mick Green. Yeah, he's got his choppy sound. You know, it's like, yeah. And if you listen to the Pirates' early stuff, not Shaken All Over, but
yeah,
I can. Yeah, he himself called himself. He said, "I'm not a great guitarist. I'm a Mick Green tribute act," which I thought was very modest. But it's. He was an engaging mixture of kind of humility and arrogance. Actually, it's made him such an extraordinary, unique character because he was so intelligent, so funny, so brilliant on stage. Wrote these fantastic songs. And apropos what we were saying earlier, I think one of the reasons why people remember him and Lee and the band so fondly is that they did burn so brightly for such a short amount of time. So it's kind of like they weren't doing that kind of vaudeville thing 20 years later of tired old fat blokes staggering around the stage. You know, the only memories we have of them is in their prime, in their youth. but he was just unique. I can't think of many rock stars who had a degree in English literature, quoted Dante's Inferno or Paradise Lost by Milton, knew Icelandic poetry, wrote brilliant rock songs, were into astronomy, were really, really funny, very proud man of Essex and Canby, hugely intelligent. I mean, what a guy.
What a guy.
Yeah,
And to say, can I just come in there,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to remind listeners, you said that they burned brightly. They couldn't have burned any more brightly because in that short period, they had a #1 album in the 70s, which is a difficult thing to do with Stupidity, didn't they, Jonathan? And in that's, so a lot of people were aware of them in the end. They're a very underground band, but to get to #1 in the 70s with an album, a live album, was a major achievement. Major achievement.
You're absolutely right. And of course, it was much harder in the 70s than it is now. And that's why this place found such an audience, I think. And interestingly, Dr. Feelgood, I mean, here's a general knowledge question for you. It comes up in the play and it gets a huge laugh every night. But Lee died in 1991, as you know, but there's a scene where Lee, Wilco's seeing visions of Lee in his head and they're having an argument and over the band and, the legacy and how much it was to do with Lee or Wilco. And Lee says, do you know how many Dr. Feelgood tribute bands there are in Spain? And and do you know what the answer is? It's 27. Now, I mean, what is that about? It's incredible.
That's unbelievable.
As you
I
say,
I have seen a few.
Yeah. I don't know why it's Spain, but it's funny. They've got there is still a Dr. Feelgood that's going around. It's a bit like Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's like they've got the franchise and they're still continuing. They are a good band. They're not a tribute band. They're just an R&B bluesy rock band, and they're very good. But there's something about Dr. Feelgood that I think they're kind of torch holders for kind of really good rock club R&B, and all over Europe there are these Dr. Feelgood type tribute bands that are still knocking it out. So I suppose it's the very definition of cult, isn't it? They're not mainstream, they're not Coldplay, but they are still incredibly popular with people 40, 50 plus.
Yeah, great legacy.
Considering the kind of music was arguably based on the British 60s R&B, they didn't end up sounding like anybody else. That they were completely, their style was completely unique. The closest I ever got to that, being a mature citizen, was that I think it was about 64. I used to go around a friend's house and listen to records, and his brother had 5 Live Yardbirds. The live album, and that's probably the closest I'd heard to Dr. Feelgood when they arrived, because they were doing a jacka, and you forget that Eric Clapton, before he started doing this Cream stuff, it was all wild stuff like that.
Let's get back to the unique. Let's get back to the plays. I don't want to keep Jonathan too long. So Leicester Square Theatre. Am I right? Is it the opening night tonight? Is that right?
Yeah, actually, it's the opening matinee. There's a matinee at 3:00 today, and it runs for the month.
How are you feeling? Because I've put on some local theatre shows and they nearly killed me. But how are you feeling in this moment? Is it you got the buzz? You got the excitement?
Yeah, it's quite a buzz. I mean, it's very exciting. I mean, the play did very well in Essex when it was on last year. It did very well a couple of months ago at Southwark. It's a different challenge, getting it, filling up a 400-seater in Leicester Square. And as you say, I mean, you're not in it for the money. I mean, God, it's like, I mean, you can end up, losing money. But the old gag is, what's the best way to make $1 million from the theatre? And the answer is start with 10 million,
Can we do a shout out for the actor who's playing Wilco?
Well, I was just going to say, the casting of it, was that a challenge or was it a joy?
It's a difficult part to play because very few, if anybody, can, even musicians, there are very few musicians who can play guitar like Wilco, let alone actor musicians who are good enough to be actors and good enough to be musicians. I mean, the challenge with these things is do you cast an actor who can play the guitar, or do you cast a brilliant guitarist who can act? And the answer is you always cast an actor first. Because it's a play. This is not a tribute band. This is not someone doing 100% Wilco on stage. It's someone getting his character across, and conveying the emotion and the trauma and the poignancy and the love story of his life and the contradictions and the complexities. Who's good on guitar? And the guy who's playing him, fun enough, is called Johnson Willis. So Johnson Willis plays Wilko Johnson,
Right.
and Johnson is fantastic. The main thing is you've got to believe that it's Wilko, and you do, because the opening scene is he's standing there with his bald head, and the lights come up, and he goes, "Behold the universe."
Yes.
I do every night from my roof in Southend. And he's
Brilliant.
up and running, and you're there in the moment straight away, and that's great. And whenever I've seen it so many times now, but I'm always transfixed by that. And the great thing about a play with music is it's like a bonus thing. I mean, you get the play. The story of Wilko's life is fantastic, but guess what? You get this fantastic music on top.
Soundtrack, and you've got some. We did touch on it before. You got an amazing lineup of guest stars, and give me an idea how they're going to. You've got Dennis Greaves in there. I mean, John Cooper Clarke, Norman Watt-Roy, who Del knows very well. Billy Bragg, Reckless Eric, Jeremy Vine, which is made me sort of look up my eyebrows. Did a bit of a Roger Moore when
he
I
loves
read
all
that
that.
one.
Jeremy Vine loves all that.
But explain. I don't want you to give too much away because we want people to go and see the play, and I think your genuine enthusiasm is coming over, and it's making me want to get a train and join you for the matinee. I've got to say, but just explain how, because that was one of the things I saw. You got to go, well, how's that going to work? So if you could briefly explain how that's working, that'd be great.
Yeah. Basically, you see the play, and then at the curtain call previously, the band would play 2 songs, but this time we're just inviting guest stars up to play those 2 songs with the band, because during the run at Southwark, which sold out, we had Wilko's son, Simon, who's a great guitarist. He's in a band called 8 Rounds Rapid. He's hot really to trot. Yeah. Great. Him and Norman Watt-Roy came on stage, played with the band, and it was like a jumbo jet taking off. It was incredible. Yeah. Seeing Norman, I mean, as he's referred to in the play as half man, half bass. Norman, I always think he looks like a bloke. He looks like a bloke whose bass has grown out of him. He looks like a statue. It's extraordinary. Yeah. He looks like something out of The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. So those 2 are going to be guesting. And what happens is at the curtain call, the actor playing Lee says, "Please welcome to the stage." Tim Vine, Jeremy's brother, who's a comedian. Yeah, we've got Jeremy just because basically I thought a couple of wild cards would be interesting, like Krishnan Guru Murthy, the Channel 4 news anchor, is a big Dr. Feelgood fan and plays guitar, and did an obit of Wilko when he died, so he's playing. Yeah. And then, as you say, people like 9 Below Zero, a guy called Sid Griffin, who's fantastic, who was in a band called the Long Riders, who were a great band and now does a lot of bluegrass, and he's in a band called the Cole Porters, who Lee left his harmonicas to when he died. He said he had a collection of 30 harmonicas in a carrier bag, and he said to his mate Kevin from Dr. Feelgood, I think it was, "Give these harmonicas to Sid Griffin. He'll know what to do with them." And next week, Sid, I'm pleased to say, on the Wednesday, I think, Sid is going to play harmonicas with the band at the curtain call. So we've got a fantastic line. Nice. If you look at the website, you'll see who's playing on what night.
Yeah, do go to it. Yeah, but I'll tell you what, we'll let you go because I know you're busy. I want you to enjoy your day today.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
Fantastic achievement, great achievement. I hope it's a massive success. But sometimes just what you've done is a success enough, as in for you personally. And we'll be coming to see it. I will be coming to see it. There's no doubt about that. I've probably come down. I don't know what date I'm coming yet, but me and Del are going to come down and see it and enjoy it. So well done, congratulations to you, because it's a hard job putting any theatre show on anywhere in the West End, a different level. So, but again, thanks for taking time with us, Jonathan. Good luck with the show. Love Wilko Johnson. Love Death and Rock and Roll. Leicester Square Theatre. If you're listening now, just get online and book a ticket. You'll be amazed at the prices. They're really reasonable. And as you've heard, this is some show. And if you're into music, rock and roll, and overall, and great theatre, live theatre. You can't beat live theatre, especially in the West End. Go and see this show. Absolutely recommend it. Thanks, Jonathan. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, nice one.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Remember to stay online.
Well, thank